Hello, I'm Debbie Kay, a volunteer with the League of Women Voters of Portland. You are watching Video Voters Guide, and we are at MetroEast Community Media with candidates running in the November 2016 general election. With me today is Mark Johnson, running for House District 52. Mark, thank you so much for making time to come today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Good. Please tell us a little about yourself and why you're running for this office.
I have been a resident of the Hood River Valley since about 1963, quite a long time. Went all the way through public schools in the area. I've been a construction contractor, engaging in residential construction. First ran for the legislature in 2010, was elected then, and I've served ever since. So I'm running for my fourth term. I'm also a school board member. I've been serving on the Hood River County School Board for the last 12 years, and I'm currently serving as board chair this year. So long, extensive history of public service, but I really enjoy serving my community.
That's a lot to do.
It is.
Wow. Well, let's dig in. Measure 97 is a huge hot topic. If it does not pass, how would you address the predicted budget shortfall for education, social services, etc.?
Great question. First of all, let me say I hope it doesn't pass, because I'm really concerned about the impact that it would have on our state's economy, but also for my constituents, in that the cost of living for them would go up significantly, and it would hit those that least can afford it, the low and middle income folks, the hardest, and we're confident of that. When it doesn't pass, I think it's going to put pressure on people like me and those of us in the legislature to really roll up our sleeves and get to work and engage in the work of revenue reform. It's something we can do, and it's something that we have put off doing, I think, for too long, which I think has led to the interest in trying to pass Measure 97. I am confident that the legislature can put together a plan that will help to provide for a broader, let's say, fairer tax base for the state of Oregon, one that is less susceptible to some of the dips and dives that our economy, that our revenue typically has, based on, because we're so fully funded by income tax revenue. If we had a broader base that would provide for more stable funding, it's going to provide a more consistent revenue stream for education and for those other social services you talk about. But in regard specifically to education, in addition to efforts to have revenue reform at the legislative level, which can actually result in more revenue, okay? It'll be more fair and it would result in more revenue. The other thing that we've got to do is get back to prioritizing our investment in education. Over the last 10 years, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, at the end of the 2005 biennium, K-12 education received about 44.7% of the general fund revenue. We're now at about 39.2%. That's a big delta, and that's to a large extent responsible for why our class sizes are so high. Some of our academic indicators are not as good as they should have been. I mean, if you can imagine, and over that same time period, the size of the general fund has grown by about $7 billion. So if over this last 10 years, we would have simply remained where we were regarding our funding priorities for K-12 education, we would have put hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars into K-12 education. We haven't. So we've got to get back to making K-12 the priority. And that's going to involve choices. We just have to, again, have better priorities and say, if we really want to fully fund and give the kids in the classroom the resources that they need, we're going to have to reprioritize how we're spending. So that's really what it comes down to for me. It's a package of legislative-led revenue reform that can net more revenue. Secondly, it's getting back to reprioritize where our values are and putting those resources where they should go.
Thank you.
You bet.
Where are your legislative priorities on gun safety?
I think we're all concerned about violence. We're all concerned about some of the tragedies that have happened, obviously not just nationally, but here in Oregon. I'm not aware of anything that we could legislate that's going to change that dynamic, unfortunately. But what we do need to do is make sure that we're providing expanding mental health services for those people that we identify as needing support, people who are at risk of engaging in violent behavior. But I think we haven't really taken a serious effort to really get at the core of the problem. As you mentioned, or as I told you, I'm really involved in public education. We're beginning to see elementary kids now coming into the classroom with violent tendencies already. Because of the, we've got families that are struggling, we've got people that, are in very unstable situations. One of the issues that I'm going to be working on in this next session is trying to begin to get health care dollars, i.e. Medicaid type funding or whatever, to come in to begin to provide behavioral health support for students in public education, specifically in Title I elementary schools, which are typically your high poverty schools.
Right.
For $50 million, we could have a behavioral health and or counselor type person in every Title I elementary school throughout the state of Oregon to begin to head off some of these violent tendencies, as I said, we're seeing in even kindergartners in some cases, before they become big issues, because as these kids get older, as you well know, the behavioral patterns get reinforced, they get more difficult to break, and then those folks are at risk, I think, of engaging in some of these, really tragic and violent behaviors that we see. So I think we just need to look at the system differently, but let's, instead of just trying to pass laws that we think are going to take, that are directed towards one particular little situation, let's look at this situation holistically throughout our society and see what we can do to try to alleviate some of these violent tendencies before they become actual violent acts.
Thank you. What about transportation infrastructure? What can we do in the legislature to get adequate funding?
Well, again, we are in the as you probably are well known, your viewers are well aware of, there is a process right now to look holistically across the state at the transportation system. Mm-hmm. Anybody that drives in the metro area, I know you live here, understand what it's like. It's not getting better, is it? And it's going to take some time to make those changes to get it to fix the situation. So we really have to take this issue on in a big way in this next legislative session. We've got to pass a really comprehensive package, and yes, there will be some fee increases in there to raise the revenue, but if this package meets the needs for all sectors of the state of Oregon, then I'm confident we can get the votes that we need to have to get this thing passed and to begin to, again, put people to work, rebuild our roads and highways and bridges, and alleviate some of this congestion that's plaguing the metro area here, as you well know. I mean, it's really at the point now, it's starting to become a drag on our economy. It's just really hard to get goods and services in a timely manner from point A to point B. So we have to do it. I mean, our neighbors to the north, Washington, in the last session passed, I think, a $12 billion package that is, it's huge, but that's the kind of investment, that we need to make here in the state of Oregon, because we're falling behind. And we're frankly at a competitive disadvantage. And it's even to the point where people from my district or points farther east, if you've got agricultural commodities that you're trying to get, from the farm to the store, from the farm to wherever the consumers are, it's becoming difficult mm-hmm. and expensive. And it's just something we have to take on. I
appreciate that. We have had a very rapid conversation, and we are practically out of time, and I'm sorry we don't have more time, but at this moment, I would like to thank you for being here.
Thank you,
and
Debbie.
Thank you for watching. This has been the Video Voters Guide. The general election is November 8th, and the last day to register to vote is October 18th. Please be informed citizens. Know about the candidates, learn about the ballot measures, and exercise your right to vote. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, David.